Who is this guy? How did the most optimistic, hopeful character in the galaxy turn into this hermit? I mean, a Jedi is optimistic. A Jedi has tenacity. He never gives up. He doesn't secrete himself on an island. But well, I was stunned. Luke was the most optimistic character. He was the one that represented hope. So I thought, what could have happened between Return of the Jedi and now that he would be like this?
Ah, Star Wars, the franchise that captured the hearts and minds of millions of fans all over the world. A saga that spanned generations, with a story that spoke to the inner hero in all of us. George Lucas created a universe that was truly magical, until Disney got their hands on it. The last decade has not been kind to Star Wars. The sequels, with all its CGI and flashy effects, managed to strip away the very soul of the franchise. It felt like a soulless corporate money grab, with little regard for the legacy of the original trilogy. I understand there have been some bright spots. Parts of The Mandalorian and Andor managed to capture the essence of what made Star Wars so appealing in the first place, but I think it's hard to ignore the damage that has been done. The sequels managed to undo much of the good the original trilogy accomplished. And now we have news that Rey Skywalker will be making a comeback for a new trilogy. This should be cause for celebration, right? No? Look, it's not just that they ruined Luke's character in The Last Jedi, although that certainly didn't help matters. It's the fact that they've managed to destroy pretty much every male character in the franchise for Rey, a character that had everything handed to her, but that's a video for another day. Honestly, I want to believe that Disney Lucasfilm has learned from their mistakes, but until they prove it, I'll remain skeptical. After all, as Yoda once said, do or do not. There is no try.
Try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
And so far, Disney Lucasfilm has been doing a lot of trying and not a lot of doing.
It's about good and evil in us, as well as our institutions. So, and the idea that some of us think we're really great people, but in the real world we're not. We're terrible people.
I did pose this provocative idea, who is Luke Skywalker, that would be something that was said by one of our characters.
Why was "Who is Luke Skywalker" such a fascinating question?
The Luke Skywalker saga might not be the most original thing to ever grace the silver screen, but it did strike a chord with people. Here's this regular farm boy who, through sheer grit and determination, manages to rise up and become a Jedi Knight. And then he goes on to save the entire galaxy from the clutches of the Empire. Luke's story isn't just some fanciful tale of heroism and adventure. It's a testament to the power of the human spirit, to the idea that no matter who you are or where you come from, you have the potential to achieve greatness and make a real difference in the world. When Disney got their hands on Lucasfilm, first thing they did was destroy the lore. But they didn't stop there. They went ahead to reduce Luke to a grumpy old man who'd lost his faith in the Force. They brought in a Mary Sue to virtually replace him. The character who had all the power and none of the struggle, none of the responsibility. It was like watching a toddler get handed the keys to a Ferrari and then just coast around in it, oblivious to the fact that they could kill someone with one wrong move. All the nuance, all the depth, all the heart that made us fall in love with the original hero was just gone.
Where I thought I came in is when the lightsaber wiggles in the snow and flies out. I said, here I am, baby.
In the Ray caught it? She hasn't even been to Dagobah for training!
And I think we can all agree that Kathleen Kennedy's leadership at Lucasfilm has been nothing short of a dumpster fire. She is so hell-bent on shoving her personal beliefs down everyone's throats that she lost sight of what made the franchise great in the first place, the characters and their stories. Fans have been up in arms about it for ages, and yet Kennedy keeps doubling down on this very misguided approach. We've seen reports of how she's bringing on writers who are more concerned with towing her line than crafting a compelling story. Luke's character was always defined by his courage, optimism, and willingness to do the right thing. That's what made him a hero. But Rian Johnson and Kennedy were more interested in making a statement about toxic masculinity, and they completely butchered Luke's arc in the process. And while we're on the topic of toxic masculinity, can I just point out how this is considered toxic?
We had a fleet, now we're down to one ship and you've told us nothing. Tell us that we have a plan.
And this isn't?
I've dealt with plenty of trigger-happy flyboys like you. You're impulsive, dangerous, and the last thing we need right now.
All Star Wars is a way of updating that idea to say, watch out, because there are people out there who don't play by the rules, and if you're not careful, you're going to lose all your freedom.
There's always going to be people, when you make something that's somewhat controversial, that are just flat out not going to like what you're doing. Right. And we didn't make the movie for them.
There's a lot of talk about the prequels. Some say they were outright failures. But let's not be too harsh in our judgment, shall we? Amidst the mixed reviews, there were some characters that stood out from the pack, and none more so than Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, the movies had their flaws. And yes, some of the characters didn't exactly knock it out of the park, but there was a certain charm to the prequels that can't be denied. And at the end of the day, they were George Lucas's babies. They were how he wanted them to be, failures or not. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a little special to me. He had this unwavering sense of composure and wisdom that almost seemed tranquil at times. He was the quintessential hero, always ready to lay it all on the line. His principles were his guiding force, and he fearlessly took action to defend them. But now, he's this. It's alarming how the same principles used to deconstruct Luke were also used on Obi-Wan, almost like the writers were following a playbook, and it's a bit unnerving to realize how predictable the whole thing was. What's particularly concerning about this is that it highlights a larger issue in the movie industry, the need to bring down respected male characters for no other reason than for the sake of it. Disney decided to take down these beloved male characters simply because they could. And while the decision may have been driven by commercial considerations, it still sets a dangerous precedent. I've always said we need to be careful about the messages we send in movies. When we celebrate the destruction of respected male characters for no reason other than to make a point, we're sending a message that no character is safe, and if you have a favorite character, a childhood hero, they will eventually come for him too. And that's a message that can have serious consequences. Obi-Wan's loyalty to the Jedi and its principles is a defining trait of his character. He was willing to risk everything to protect what he believes in, no matter the personal cost. This loyalty shaped him into the man he was, at least until Disney came for him too. He may not have gotten the recognition he deserved at the start of the prequels, but we eventually grew to really love him. It's actually impressive how he turned from this to this. Once a paragon of patience and wisdom, he guided Luke and a multitude of other characters with his sage advice. His serene demeanor allowed him to empathize with diverse viewpoints, and his measured approach made tackling even the thorniest issues seem effortless. But then, Disney's touch turned him into a feeble, hopeless shell of a man. A hollow shell for the show's true protagonist, Reva. He was depicted as a spineless coward, stripped of any semblance of his former self.
Those people who may not play by the rules because they're selfish and greedy turn themselves into evil people who don't care about other people.
It says right in the script, forget the past, kill it if you have to. And you're doing a pretty good job. You really have to think of what the audience expects and what they want. And he says, no, we have to do the opposite. We have to give them something they don't expect that we want.
Disney and its cohorts have a knack for undermining their characters in very sneaky ways. One such tactic is the classic bait and switch. They hype up a side project, plastering the main character all over the promotional material. But when you finally get around to watching the thing, you realize that the so-called main character is actually just a passenger in their own story. Of course, they don't advertise it like that. No. These companies know the power of nostalgia and use legacy characters to lure in audiences like a siren song. They want you to bask in the warm, fuzzy glow of past memories, so you're more inclined to give their new project a chance. But then, once you're hooked, they pull the rug out from under you. They strip the main character of their agency and make them seem like a bumbling idiot. It's more frustrating when this new story is trying to push a younger, more empowered sidekick who will inevitably take over for the legacy character. And wouldn't you know it, that sidekick is usually a female character who's apparently always been better than everyone else. It's a classic sleight of hand that these companies have been pulling for years. Of course, we're in the era of empowerment, but it's a message that can easily get lost in translation if you're not careful, especially if you're trying to tell it through a character who comes across as a lazy, helpless mess, unable to even control their own story. Now, if you want to create a truly compelling story, it's not rocket science. Your main character has to be the one taking the reins, making the tough decisions and facing challenges head-on. But all of this becomes meaningless if you're not honest about your intentions. If you're intentionally trying to degrade and embarrass a legacy character that your fans have grown to love, then you're just playing dirty. And this is how we end up with Mary Sue's. Characters who are overpowered and seemingly flawless in every way, but ultimately devoid of any real substance. They're the ones who have both the physical ability and intellectual prowess to make them seem better than everyone else, even though they have no real reason to be.
Rey Skywalker.
What does that even mean? That is impossible.
Look, I think I know the Jedi philosophy, and a Jedi would never give up. If he made a mistake, he would try and correct it. So that was tough.
Daisy's character, what's her name?
Ray.
Ray.
I'm saying she didn't even do any training. What's going on here?
What is going on there? Because she didn't do any training.
Well,
How could she possibly stand up?
Well,
when I read 8, I told Ryan, I fundamentally disagree with virtually everything you've decided about my character. But
how Rey beat Kylo Ren?
Why is that so hard for people to get? Like, she's...
Until next time, peace.